Hi, welcome. Thank you for coming. We'd like to just take a few minutes to be silent, and we'll try to get nervous and think about what we're going to say. Okay. So a few minutes of silence. Okay, we'll start then. So just to catch you up, if you weren't here yesterday, we are speaking about a famous book. It was written about 18 centuries ago, just after Christ, by a great Buddhist named Nagarjuna. And Nagarjuna is the, history's most famous teacher of emptiness. And I think it's really important at the beginning of this talk that we mention clearly what emptiness means. Because as I mentioned yesterday, when I first encountered the idea of emptiness, somebody put me down in a room and they said, stare at the wall and don't think about anything, and this is emptiness. And I think that kind of wrong idea is still, it's like smog, somehow it still stays in our country. Still people think like that, even though it's very, very mistaken. It doesn't have anything to do with emptiness. So I think here's emptiness, just very simply, you see. Point to something in this room that is not a result of how you have been treating other people. You see? Point to something in this room which is not what we call a karmic result, right? Good or bad, point or neutral. Can you point to anything in this room which has not been produced by the way you are treating other people in your life? And then in Buddhism we say, what? Empty. Emptiness. Void. There's nothing. You see? If I said point, and you start pointing to the roof or the people next to you or the pew or us sitting up here, if you had to point to something which you have not created by how you behave towards others, there's nothing. And that's emptiness. So it could have been called nothingness or something, okay? So now you know it's not so complicated. It's not so mysterious. So the next step after that is, well, what kind of karma should I do to have a good life, to have the things I want in life? And then as a couple, as partners, how can we use this idea to gain the goals that we like? And that's where we ended yesterday. Arya Nagarjuna, I think the most famous lines from his book, Jimbe Tsutim Tumgide. We have to memorize it in the monastery. Very famous. If you do this, you get this. If you do this, you get this. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about the correlations that we had last night. We ended last night with 6 or 7 activities or 6 or 7 different things you can do as a couple to have a better relationship and to reach a higher level as a couple. So I'll just start through the Tibetan as a review. This is a review of last night. Jimbe Longche. Jimbe Longche in Tibetan means if you want material prosperity, if you want prosperity in your life, Jimbe means you must first provide it to others. You cannot have financial security as a couple unless you first provide it to others. And I was thinking we'd like to try to give a real example. So, our flight from India was routed through LA. So we stopped in LA and we got out and we had a couple days. We had some time. So we went to see family and we went to see Christy's brother. His name's Peter. And he's getting married in April or something. September? So they're asking us, can you get to Des Moines in September? But that's another problem. But we went to see their house. He and his fiancée bought a house. So in LA, And we went to see it, and they bought a kind of a rack, and then they fixed it up themselves. And this is what young couples do after they when they're going to get married. And I was reflecting on it that sometimes when you start out in life as a couple, then your finances change, and oftentimes it becomes like a fortress. You see, now we're going to have a house. And then the finances get pulled together. So if you don't understand emptiness, if you don't understand Nagarjuna, then what you would do as a couple is you would buy the house, you would get this new mortgage, and now you team up as a pair to pay off this thing which neither one of you could have paid for individually. And then in a way, you sort of start learning the art of protecting your money or building a wall around your money. And now the combined finances become a reason not to give money away. You see what I mean? Because now you have responsibilities. Now you have a mortgage, you see. And so if you understand karma, if you understand the correlations, if you understand Nagarjuna, you would do the opposite, which is very often the case with these things. You would just do the opposite. Okay, what? As soon as you bought the house, as soon as you have a mortgage, you would do what? Consciously, as a couple, try to give money to other people more than you did before as individuals. You see? This is wisdom. This is the perfection of wisdom. It's totally unintuitive. It's totally against our natural instincts. Normally, when you start a household, you start to build walls around your finances, and you start to protect your money, right? If you understood worldview, if you understood Nagarjuna's worldview, then as soon as you started your household, as a couple, you would start to encourage each other to give away money more, as much as you can. It doesn't mean you default on your obligations, okay? It doesn't mean that you call the mortgage company and say, I can't pay you what I promised you. That's not the idea. The idea is that within your current responsibilities, meeting all of your responsibilities honestly and truthfully, whatever other money you have, give it away. Consciously try to give it to needy people, and this is the way to pay off your mortgage. This is the way to increase your financial security. By releasing it, by giving it up, you see? And it's very difficult. If you don't understand emptiness, it's a really difficult idea, okay? If you do understand emptiness, it's the source of all financial security. And we've used it, in the last 30 years, on many occasions, to raise very substantial millions of dollars for charities by using this principle. Okay. The second, Jimbe Longju Chimgide. Chimgide means if you want as a couple to be happy, then you must observe Sultram. Sultram means morality. Morality means, at its most basic level, don't hurt other people. Don't hurt other living beings. Okay. Then I was trying to think of an example how in our life, in our real life. So like when we left my mom's house in California, we left our hairbrush there. And so we got to Tucson, and I don't have that much hairs. So, I need a brush. And we went to the Walgreens, and we started looking through the brushes, and I saw, oh, this one's not plastic. This one has a wooden handle, And then she's like, and she picks this up. She says, oh, that's pretty good, but it says boar bristles, The hairs of the brush have been taken from an animal, have been cut from an animal that was killed. So as a couple, you can get more subtle in your nonviolence, you see? Like I would have just taken it. I wouldn't have looked at the little letters that said boar bristles, right? And as a couple, you can be more powerful in how you practice nonviolence. So she's like, oh, boar bristles. I don't know if we can buy it. I'm like, yeah, but it's the only wooden one, you know. It's the only wooden handle one. Because I don't like plastic, you know. And she's like, I don't know. Do you think that anyone got hurt making this? No, they probably killed a pig for pork, you know, and then they have extra hairs and they just shave them off, you know. But you know, no, really, you start to desire twists your morality, right? And then she's like, yeah, but they probably get paid for the hairs, right? And I'm like, yeah. And so it contributes to the, you know, then it's more economically viable to kill the pig. Well, that's true. So in the end, I had to take this plastic one that really hurts. But as a couple, you can use each other to go further than you would as an individual, you see? And so use your partnership as a reason to be more moral, which makes you happier as a couple, you see? Then you're collecting karma as a couple. And then the things you do in your life bring you more happiness. The third one here says, Supe Dangden. Supe Dangden means if you can learn not to be angry or upset at people or situations, then you actually, Dangden means your face takes on a certain kind of radiance. Like the Dalai Lama has this radiance. I don't know if you'd call it beauty as such. It's a kind of higher beauty. It's the radiance of a person who never gets angry, right? Who just habitually avoids anger. So I was trying to think of an example. So today, we were in LA. We met one of her childhood friends, an older couple who do yoga. So they said, "Oh, we saw your book reviewed in Yoga Journal, you know." And we're like, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Yeah, you got a really good review, you know." So we were like, "Ooh." And so today, I'm supposed to be working on some project, but I was like, maybe I can find this review, you know. And, you know, and I'm typing review, Roach, McNally, yoga. And this review comes up, and it's by a scholar. And it wasn't the Yoga Journal review. And it just tore the book apart, you know. And there wasn't one good thing. And then I got this kind of, we call lung. Lung means you don't get angry per se, but you feel some kind of discomfort for an hour or something. Like queasy. You feel queasy inside. Off balance. Like if Christy asked you a question, you might be a little short-tempered, you know? So then she's like, well, what's bugging you, you know? And I'm like, nothing, you know? And then she's like, what were you doing on the web? You know, I was like, oh, there's this guy, you know? And no, but then as a couple, the other person can say, look, you know, tonight we're going to talk about patience, and you're getting bugged, you know, and as a couple, you can help each other. Then as a couple, you take on a kind of radiance, you know, you have a sort of radiance. If you can keep yourself from becoming upset and help each other, you see, because I didn't have the strength at that moment. She didn't read the review. She still didn't read the review. Tomorrow I'll get to do it for her, you know, and so you can help each other that way. The next one is Tsumbeji. Tsumbeji means, this is a hard one. Tsumba means to enjoy doing good things. To enjoy doing good things. Like, if you have a choice between like watching TV or like we had a chance, we could have done more translation work, or we could have gone to the movies with her mom, right? And what was that movie? Well, we went to Narnia or something like that. But anyway, so for me it'd be more comfortable to stick my head in the computer and do some more Tibetan. But in the large scale of things, it's more good karma to assist one of your parents. This is higher good karma. So I'm like, I don't really want to go to the movies, but But as a couple, you can support each other. You can say, look, what's more good karma? What's a better thing to do at this moment with your life? And then you choose, you make choices, and you go for the higher good. And you go twist your arm and eat popcorn. I don't know those frozen bonbon things. And you go to the movies, but they say as a couple, if you keep supporting decision making in what you're going to do together, which if you're a real couple, like we're not allowed to be separated at all, ever, physically, more than a few feet. So as a couple, if you're always, what do you call it, negotiating what you're going to do, right? Like we have to eat what we eat together. So, I'm what do you call it? What do they do it in Washington when I'm lobbying for Cheerios and toast, and she's like lobbying for strawberries and tomatoes, so as a couple you have to negotiate what you're going to do next, you see, and you can use that to your advantage. You see, you can start to convince each other, it would be more virtuous, it'd be more karma, good karma to do this right now. And then G, the karmic result of that as a couple, G means, this is a difficult word to translate, but it means some kind of, I put here, grace and authority. And what happens is that, in a strange way, when people meet you as a couple, they listen to you. Or they think, these people, we should listen to these people. Or they, karmically, because of karma, of trying to do the right thing from moment to moment during the day, the karmic result of that as a couple is that people sort of look at you and think, maybe they know what they're talking about, or something like that. Okay? This is a karmic result of trying during the day to do what's the best karmic thing, okay? And helping each other make that decision. The next one is called Samdengi Shi. Samdengi Shi Samden means meditation. And this is also really useful. Before we became partners, I would skip my meditation a lot, my morning meditation. Like if I had a project or I had a teaching to give, I would sit at the computer and translate something and skip my meditation. So she won't put up with that because she's the Bok Jimba teacher, right? And and as a couple, you can help each other keep your meditation schedule, and also we don't speak normally before noon or 1 o'clock, even to each other. So this is habit of doing a daily meditation or prayer and of not speaking more than necessary. It creates in each of you a kind of ability to focus very deeply. You reach a sort of inner silence. You can connect with your core much easier. I was in LA. Core is the big thing. Okay? It's the next big thing in yoga, right? It used to be called abs work. And now they call it core. And it's like infecting all the yoga studios. We got to really watch that. So they got weights and you're doing push-ups, sit-ups, but that's not the kind of core work I'm talking about. This is like, core means, if as a couple, you support each other, and when this is the cool thing about a couple. If you're really working well, spiritually, as a couple, then when I don't feel like meditating, she's like, what? We gotta meditate. We told the students to meditate. We have to meditate, and then other days she'll say, I don't feel like meditating. And I'll say, no, you're the meditation teacher at DM, you have to meditate. And then you kind of help each other go higher. And in this case, go more silent, go more deeper. And the karma of keeping up a regular meditation practice, only 15 minutes a day, say, is that you reach a very deep silence and a very deep concentration. Recently, we met two people. One is the owner of Bumble and Bumble in New York, and another was a gentleman we met in LA who owns a company. But I was interested because talking to both of them, they had run into some meditation practice 30 years ago. And somebody told them, do 15 minutes a day. Just do 15 minutes a day. And they taught them this thing. So they haven't had contact with a teacher since then, for 30 years. But they both kept doing it. For 30 years, they're still doing 15 minutes a day of what we might consider sort of a flaky meditation practice. But I don't want to say that, because it worked. You know, like just 15 minutes a day, they never stopped. They were these hippies, they went to India, somebody told them, do this 15 minutes a day, they came home, they became business people, they never started meditating again, formally. They never met another teacher. But they kept up this 15 minutes a day thing for 30 years. They are so intense. And Bumble and Bumble is this incredibly beautiful, happy, powerful, creative company. It's all because of this guy, his inner silence, his ability to focus. So it's a karma. You see, if you keep doing it, you get this peace. You get this inner. And as a couple, then the peace starts to infect the world around you. So as a couple, as you move through your life as a couple, you just keep running into peaceful people. You see, there's what we call an environmental karma. As you try to be more peaceful day by day, there's an environmental karma. The city you're in becomes quieter. The people you hang out with are quieter, more focused. Okay, so this is a karmic result. The next one is Loid Tru. Loid Tru means if you keep working on the ideas that we're talking about tonight, you will become free from pain. Okay? Less and less pain in your life. Physical pain, less financial problems, less relationship problems, less violence in your city and your world. Just freedom from negativity. If you understand this, how the world really works, then you, as a karmic result, as a couple, you just have less trouble and you're freed from pain. We just live on a level in which we have very few of the problems or pains that normal people have. We just don't have them. We just don't ever experience them. You know, they never occur in our life. And you help each other. You keep reminding each other what really makes the world run, which is kindness to other people, taking care of other people. Okay? And that's the last one here. As a couple, just love other people. Just be good to other people, enjoy other people, and we try. We're not perfect at it. We fail embarrassingly and publicly. Frequently perhaps, but we try hard, and then the result of trying to love people, take care of other people, it's just like everything comes. That's everything. That karma is like a universal kind of karma, a karma which covers everything you could ever want. And it's very, very powerful. He's going to speak tomorrow. Arya Nagarjuna will talk about the power of a single moment of wanting to take care of the world. You know? Like if you compared all the good stuff you ever did in your life to a single moment of true emotion of wanting to take care of this world, that single moment is more powerful than years of trying to do more physical kinds of charity or taking care of people. So those are the karmas, and as a couple, you're much more powerful. If you use the relationship well, support each other in this way, then your life just is a continual upward spiral. Okay. You also become the savior of the world, but we'll talk about that later. Okay. He mentions it there. Okay.
Yeah. So now we've gotten on to day 2, officially. We're on page 2 of the second reading. All the kinds of pain there are come from negative deeds. So too all the realms of misery. All the higher forms of life come from good deeds, as well as happiness in all our births. So this is like a summary of what we've been hearing so far. You know, every single thing that is in your life right now that you don't like, every single thing that makes you uncomfortable, that irritates you, that bothers you in the slightest bit, it comes from something negative that you've done to other people. The bottom line, you know, it always comes to that. It's a pure cause and effect relationship. You know, you can't get a negative thing from something good that you've done. And you can't get a positive thing from something bad that you've done. And it's so simple. I mean, this verse is so simple, and it's so profound because we don't live this way. We don't live our lives thinking this. And if we lived our lives thinking this way, if we were sure about this principle of life, that no matter what, if I do something good, I can never get a bad result. And no matter what, if I do something bad, I can never get a good result. Then our paths would be clear. You know, there would be no question about what we need to do next. We had a line in the first reading last night about the difference between children and wise people, right? And they said children live in fear, and the wise, they are beyond fear. And this is what this verse is talking about. You know, we can think of it in terms of finding a partner and dealing with the partnership relationship, or we can think of it in terms of us as a whole. So let me give you an example of, you know, finding a partner. You have a decision to make. You know, you can't see the future. And someone gave you their phone number, and you're wondering, and you gave them yours, right? So you're wondering, should I call them first, or should I wait for them to call me? Right? And there's an uncertainty about this world. There's an uncertainty about decisions that come to us in our lifetimes. We don't know whether it's better to call him first, or whether, you know, if he would like it more if he called me. You know, if you don't live by these principles, then you live in a constant state of uncertainty. You live by, well, maybe this will work, well, maybe that will work. And it doesn't matter if you call him first or if you wait for him to call you. If you have been purely moral about other people's spiritual partners and other people's partners in general, then you will get a good partner yourself. If you have not been purely moral, then no matter what you do, you know, to your hair, how much makeup you put on, what you wear, who you call, where you go, you're not going to find them. Or if you find them, you're not going to keep them. Because you didn't go for the actual cause, the true cause. Once you know the true cause, you don't have to worry about your hair, and you don't have to worry about your clothes, because no matter what you look like, they're going to come to you. They're going to knock down your door and be right there when you least expect it, in the grocery store, buying something embarrassing, you know. You won't be able to stop it. You'll like try and hide behind the shelves, and they'll still come. You know, it's this simple law of cause and effect. So, you know, someone like Arya Nagarjuna, who has seen emptiness directly, someone who understands these principles to their core, they have no fear. They have no questions about what to do in their life. You know, I told you I'd give an example of as a couple, right? Okay. As a whole, we go to a family gathering in whatever city. We're visiting some relatives, and one of the relatives, my brother-in-law doesn't like the fact that we're together or something like that and says something rude. And this is just totally hypothetical. His brothers are totally sweet. But should you, or should he, or should we as a couple approach him and talk to him about it and reason with him and say, that kind of hurt our feelings, that's not really appropriate? Or should we just be really stoic and Buddhist and let it go and hope that he will eventually, come to terms with it? Well, neither of them is the actual cause. Neither of them will affect what we're experiencing as a couple. What we have to do is be more considerate of other people and other people's relationships and be more mindful of how we respond to other couples and and how open we are to others. It has nothing to do with what we say or what we don't say. It has nothing to do with what we do in the present moment. And that's the real stickler of the matter. Arya Nagarjuna is very famous. He has another book that he wrote to another king, which is called Letter to a Friend. It's one of his most famous books, if anybody's ever heard it. And he says in that book, that time gap, it's the worst problem. If we didn't have a time gap between what causes things, what actually causes things, and their result, we would be perfectly moral all the time, and then we'd be perfectly happy all the time. We like to give this example in New York because in New York there are a lot of roaches in the apartments. You're learning that the cause of physical health would be protecting life, any kind of life, even the life of an animal or a bug. And then, we get these questions in New York, but can I still exterminate? Can I still have the guy come to my apartment because I have this terrible roach problem? And nobody would ever ask that if at the moment that you were killing the roach, as you were stepping down with your foot, your own ribs started to crack. If it was that quick, if the cause and effect relationship was that quick, you would never finish stepping on the bug because you'd know it's causing me pain. What's not clear right now is that our actions are causing us that amount of pain because there's a waiting process. These mental images that we are planting in our minds by being unkind to other people, they're like seeds, and they take time to gestate in the mind and then grow and then project themselves out into an uncomfortable situation for us. They take time. And so we don't recognize them when they come back to us. We're like, hey, why is that guy being rude to me? Hey, why can't I get a partner that I can never keep? Why do they keep leaving? Why do they, And we don't realize that it's us that are creating this,
We're on to page 3 in the reading. This is the only quotation in the reading that does not come from The String of Jewels, this book by Arya Nagarjuna. This is rather a book that was written by His Holiness the First Dalai Lama. The First Dalai Lama lived in the 15th century, 500 years ago, and this is what this quotation is about. This quotation is about what Arya Nagarjuna said in the book that we're talking about. So Arya Nagarjuna said what? Jimbe longja chimgide. If you want financial security, you must provide it to other people first. Then it will come to you. If you want happiness as a couple, you must be careful not to hurt others as a couple. Avoid the boar hair bristle brush, okay? As a couple. And if you do so, you will be happy, right? So, now, in Tibet, in Asia, in China, in Japan, in India, these ideas have been there for thousands of years. You know, people grow up this way. We're in India, we watch people. You know, for example, a friend of ours, Santosh, he's running the new computer project in Varanasi. They are inputting ancient yoga texts. Very successful. They're doing really well. And his father died suddenly. So, as part of the funeral service, they buy a bull and they release it, you see? And so that's why there's bulls walking around the street, you know, everywhere. And they just attack you at weird moments, you know? And it's like, you know, we're in front of a temple and this bull decided to bull his way down the street, you know, and like a guy got hurt, you know, and we're like, where are all these bulls running around? It's because if you live in a society that produces milk, it produces, you know, the mom cows are valuable and the boy cows are not. And they're killed and they're made into veal in our country. But in their country, you just get lots of bulls running around. So they release them and people take care of them. Like just walking down the street, if you're eating a donut or something, you give the bull a piece, you know. And hopefully they're nice to you. But this is a cultural thing. So they are protecting life. They are maintaining the milk production without killing off the males. And this is how they do it. So how many of them understand what they're doing? You see, for how many of them is it an act of nonviolence? Or is it just something that their parents did? You see what I mean? And this was happening in Tibet and India. And Tibetan wise people and great Indian wise people, they would point this out to people. They'd say, why are you releasing the bull? I don't know, it's just a funeral thing. You know, everybody releases a bull when their father dies, you know. And otherwise my father won't get to Pitaloka. He won't go to grandfather's heavens. You know, and you're, yeah, but do you have any idea that you're preventing the death of this animal? No. You know, and they don't think about their nonviolence, you see. They are nonviolent by habit and not because they understand it, you see. And the question that comes up here, that the first Dalai Lama raises, the first Dalai Lama says, why do you believe in karma? You see? Like, I guess maybe 80% of the people here are already well disposed to the idea of karma, or else you probably wouldn't have come tonight. You see, like a good number of the people here, when we say, oh, look, you want to pay your mortgage off faster? What's the best way? You know, within your capacity of your income as a couple, give away as much as you can to the poor, okay? While still meeting your mortgage payments. First, you see what I mean? Give away as much as you can. So most people here are like, that sounds nice. I mean, the Dalai Lama would probably say something like that. He's a nice guy. It sounds good to me. You know, it sounds okay to me. We're at like the karma sounds okay to me stage, you see? And the first Dalai Lama is like, that's not enough. You see, that won't work. You can't be following the ideas of karma because your dad did, because you live in India, right? And you can't be following the laws of karma because it sounds okay, because as soon as it's uncomfortable, you won't follow the laws of karma. You see? You have to follow the laws of karma because you have established in your own mind that they're absolutely true. You see? You must do your homework. You must sit down day after day, thinking, is this true or not? You know, if I was the last person in the world, and no one ever told me this, and I was reading a book and it said, look, if you want to pay your mortgage off faster, give away as much of your disposable income as you can, right? And would you be able to confirm that in your own mind? You see? Because only then will you succeed. As long as your belief in karma is only sort of because it sounds good, when things get hard, you won't follow it. And also, on a positive way, you won't commit yourself enough to pay off the mortgage faster. You see? You'll go and say, oh, some guy asked you for a quarter. And then you're like pulling teeth, right? Okay, we went to that talk last night. I got a mortgage. Let's see if it works, you know? And then, but still you're like, I don't know, but I gotta have a quarter for parking, you know? And then, you know, it's like, okay, I'll try, you know? And then it's not enough, you see, because you don't really believe it, because you didn't think about it. So, what the first Dalai Lama did, this is an ancient tradition, very, very ancient tradition, since 2,500 years. Learn to prove it to yourself, you know? Learn to prove it to yourself. Take the time to prove what? The idea that you get what you give. You see? The idea that you cannot get anything unless you provide it to someone else first. You see? And then I was thinking about it. You know, karma is what we call Shinto-kokyo. Shinto-kokyo means it ain't obvious. It's not something you can see obviously. And I was thinking of two examples. AIDS and radiation. Okay? I was thinking of these examples. AIDS and radiation. I remember how AIDS began and the epidemic started. And it was just so hard to convince people to do something, right? Like, look, you can't have sex. I grew up in the 60s, you know. It was like considered, free sex was a very radical idea. And it was like, I was just growing up in that period. I reached my adolescent sexual years when free sex broke out, you know. And it's so hard to tell that generation, you can't do that anymore. Why? You'll kill yourself. You see? There's this little virus. And if you have one occasion of unprotected sex, you could get it. And then you must die. It must kill you. And it's this long thing. We've taken care of AIDS patients. It's like one of our friends, he was a great ballet dancer, head of the Copenhagen Ballet, right? And he got AIDS. He was in our group. And we were like caring for him. So like I'm there on the last few days, you know, he can't even get up to pee. I'm like trying to get the bottle close enough so that he can pee without moving, right? And I'm like afraid he's going to pee on me, right? And about the virus, and do I have a cut on my hands? And it's so hard to convince people that something they can't see can kill them, right? And we had it, I was in the diamond business. I was in the gemstone business. We did like 30, 40,000 stones a day, wholesale diamonds. So we have these blue topaz. I don't know if you know about blue topaz. Blue topaz is a dirty brown stone that comes from Sri Lanka or East Africa or Brazil. It's a dirty brown topaz. And then they take it to a nuclear reactor and you set it in there for, I don't know, just a day. And then it gets radiated and it becomes this beautiful blue color. But it also becomes highly radioactive, right? So, you know, we were dealing with these stones and I'm like, I want to find out if this is safe. I have pregnant women in my department. I have, you know, I want to know if these are safe. I'm calling the Atomic Energy Commission, you know, Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Are these things safe? Well, we can't give you an answer public, you know, legally. It's not an official answer. I said, give me an unofficial answer. He says, we don't know. You know, and I said, but people are selling them. They're in all the stores, you know. I have women here. I have a big department. There's stones all over. He says, well, the way radiation works is that one particle, a single subatomic particle, flies out of the stone, goes through your flesh like nothing because it penetrates flesh like just air. And it bumps into one of your cells. And it hits a DNA chain. And it breaks one subatomic chain in one cell. And then it creates cancer. Then that multiplies and creates cancer. So is a single neutron going to fly off Mrs. Smith's blue topaz ring and hit one of her DNA chains, you know. And then I had to go through this thing of trying to convince people like J.C. Penney's. You have to check. You have to use a Geiger counter. This could be dangerous for people. No, we've been doing it for years. People have these stones, you know. And anything that you can't see with your eyes, it's so hard to convince people that it means something. You see what I mean? So Nagarjuna, these great Buddhist scholars, great Buddhist monks, 2,000 years, they are saying, learn to confirm the things that you cannot see. Develop the mental tools to confirm things that you cannot see. Like what? Like AIDS. Or like radiation, right? Or like, if you want to pay off your mortgage faster, take your disposable income and give it to charity. And the money will come to you. You see? Because that's like radiation and AIDS. You can't prove it with your eyes. You see? It doesn't work right away. Christy just said that, right? It's not like you're going to give away $100 and then suddenly $1,000 is deposited into your bank account. You need to be able to think, why is it true? You need to develop the mental tools to prove that karma works. And that just takes, I don't know, asinine, they call it asinine, what do you call it? Determination. Meaning like a jackass. You just, every day, you go back to this book. You go back, listen to Dalai Lama tapes, you know. Get some books off the web. Go to Lama Brian's talks. You know, every day. There's lots of classes in Tucson, right? You have to prove it to yourself, or else it will never be strong enough to pay off your mortgage. You'll never give away money with enough enthusiasm to pay off your mortgage. You see? It won't work. This stuff won't work for you. You need to work to prove the idea to yourself, and that takes time. That takes, you know, your school teachers had 15 years to convince you that the way to pay off your mortgage is to get an extra job like her brother did. You see? Like, we're at a big disadvantage. We have 1 or 2 hours to talk you into something that your school teachers had 15 years to talk you into. You see? No, and we are disagreeing with them. Okay? That your culture is, since you were born, has been telling you, you want to get a house? You want to have a mortgage? You know, you're just getting married, starting out, you're going to have to get an extra job. You're just going to have to work harder, you know. And we're getting up here and saying, you want to have a mortgage? You want to start a family? Then focus on your disposable income. Find the people who are most needy in your community and personally hand it to them and serve them with that money. Your mortgage will be paid off much faster. You know, you will become financially secure very quickly. So, like, we're working against 15 years of brainwashing in your elementary school and high school. We only got a few minutes. So you have to take responsibility. What the first Dalai Lama is saying here is that you have to do the work. You have to go home. You have to work on proving the idea of karma to yourself and working on teachers, finding teachers in Tucson, there's lots. Finding books you can read. And then slowly getting this idea so strong in your heart that you can get the things you want. And you can get a partner who's perfect. You see? And we say this is the only way to get them. Okay? It's the only way. So you have to work on the idea of karma. You do have the karma for refreshments. Right? Yeah. I'll do one pitch. Do I have any other pitches to do? Oh, we got 2 pitches to pitch to you before that. This is the book that got the bad review. Now, this came out last week. It's by Doubleday and Random House. And Christy and I worked on it. And it's a new translation of the Yoga Sutra. The Yoga Sutra is the oldest book on on yoga. It's about 2,000 years old. And it's a very, very beautiful spiritual book. It's like the Bible, probably for more people in India than in the West, the Bible. This book is considered like, I don't know, a spiritual classic. And we tried to use ancient texts from Tibet to explain the meaning of this book. And I personally think it's fantastic. Then we did a cool thing with and the Yoga Journal gave it a really, really good review. And but the thing about it is, I don't know how to say. We met with Doubleday and we sat down and we said, let's make the book cheaper than a yoga class. So it's $9.99, and they're back there. And I would really encourage you. The book is a true classic in the world. It's like the New Testament or like that. And I think it would be a good thing in your life to read it. So for that you can get one, right? And I encourage you to get one. Not for the money. We don't get in any money. They give us like 38 cents or something. But I think you'll find that it helps your spiritual life and as partners also. I think Mercedes has an announcement.
Two quick announcements. One is, again, we have a bake sale tonight, and all the proceeds are going towards Sarah May Monastery in South India and sending a team there to study. Also, I believe a lot of the proceeds that were raised last year went to medical supplies for some of the monks that are there as well. So it's all free by donation. If you don't have any money, don't worry about it, as well as coming in any of the evenings. One quick announcement. About a year or two ago when Geshe came out of retreat, he had this idea that he wanted to start teaching in churches. And thanks to the kindness of Barbie Goldschmidt, who's here tonight, she organized a meeting with a lot of the pastors and priests in Tucson, and they agreed to meet Geshe Michael and hear what he had to say, because it's one thing to rent a church and to come in, and it's another thing for the church and the community to really get behind you and put you in their church bulletins as a Buddhist group, right? So there was one woman there who heard Geshe speak and said, and she's in my opinion, a beautiful Christian woman, said, everyone needs to hear what this man is saying. And she went to her board at St. Philip's and talked them into allowing Geshe to come in. And the success of that event at St. Philip's allowed us to come to Grace St. Paul, allowed us to move to Sun Valley, Idaho, to do talks in churches there, because they were contacting the pastors there, as well as a cathedral in Ireland. And she's just here tonight, and I just wanted to thank Jeanette Renoff from the Chicheria Foundation, if she would just come up. And we just want to thank you, and if you see her, please thank her. Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice break.
Have refreshments. I think you should put extra money in the box for the cookies. And by the way, we're sending kids. They're like 20, 25-year-old, very sincere young people. And what we pay for their airfare, and then they go to this ancient monastery, Tibetan monastery, in the summertime, and they get to expose to these ideas from the source. And last year was the first year. Rebecca is the director of that, and it was very successful. And so we want to send, I don't know, like 10, 15 young people again this year. So that's what I think you should just take a cookie and put $20 in the box. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Oh, and if you'd like to come up and say hi to Christy or myself, please feel free during the break to come up. Okay? Have a good break. We'll start in 10, 15 minutes.
Could we offer the ending there to this man? And then, whatever, tell me what you think I should do.
Okay.
Yeah? No, I have to switch my hair.
Okay, switch the hair.
Oh, he's got that John Stillwell Jewelers. Stillwell Jewelers.
Yeah.
Where did they pin it last time?
This way.
This way. Let me do it the way they did last time.
How are you feeling?
I'm good.
The thing is gone?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
How's your meditations?
The meditations are good.
Yeah?
They're, Lizette and I taught day long one
To
to lots of students. There were 12. Yeah,
Great.
It's very good. Meditations are good for that.
Nice.
Good to see you.
How's your dad?
It's very good. They got the course ready. They're ready. They know their launch February 15th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell him.
We'll be there.
Tell him.
We'll be there.
We'll start.
We'll just be quiet for a little bit while everybody takes their seats. Someone came up to me at the break, and he said, "You are making these outlandish comments, these outlandish statements about cause and effect, and where's your proof?" And it's true, these are outlandish, I mean, that these laws of cause and effect are very, very difficult to figure out on your own. And I don't want anyone to just read the paper and hear what we say and take them at face value and say, okay, this is true. Because that's not really going to affect your life. Because you won't really believe it deep in your heart. And then when the crucial point comes and you're about to do something like slightly negative to get what you want, you won't be able to stop yourself because you won't really believe in these principles of cause and effect, right? You have to know that they're true. You have to understand that they're true. And the only way that I know to understand that those laws are true, that the laws of cause and effect, giving produces wealth, taking care of other people's physical health produces your own health, being very strict in your morality about other people's partners produces a partner of your own. Those kind of correlations, they don't make sense unless you understand emptiness. Everything hinges around emptiness. And that's why Arya Nagarjuna wrote all of his books about this subject. You have to understand how the world is really working. Because if you don't understand how the world is really working, you wouldn't understand why it's not true that you can seduce somebody else's partner away from somebody else and have a happy marriage from it. It wouldn't make sense to you. You might think that that was possible if you didn't understand emptiness. So Arya Nagarjuna, he says, these laws of cause and effect, these are what Lord Buddha wrote down for all of us after he saw emptiness, after he understood the way reality worked. If you care to prove whether or not these laws of cause and effect are actually true, why don't you check out and see whether emptiness is true? So, Arya Nagarjuna spends all his time in all his books going around trying to attack emptiness in different directions, from different angles, different sides, trying to look at emptiness in new ways, because emptiness is hard. Just, you can think that you understand it, and then it slips out of your fingers. And I know there's a lot of people in this audience who've been practicing Buddhism for many years, who've been practicing these teachings and trying to get their minds around emptiness for many years. And even for the best spiritual practitioners that I know, it's still hard sometimes. It's still hard. So this verse, the next verse that we're going to do, is another angle that Arya Nagarjuna tells us to look at emptiness from. It's on page 5. Page 5 and page 6. Just as a single instant possesses an end, so too must we consider its beginning and its middle. Because it is thus a combination of 3 different instants itself, the world cannot be something which remains for the length of an instant. Neither do the beginning, nor the middle, nor the end exist through any nature of their own. So we're going to examine a single moment of time in our lives, in our past. This is what Arya Nagarjuna is doing with us right now in this verse. It sounds kind of obscure, but let's apply it to our own lives. Just close your eyes for a minute and think back to, somebody that you felt very drawn towards and attracted towards. Maybe your first boyfriend or girlfriend. And imagine that first moment when you came together and maybe you had your first kiss. Find the moment of that first contact with this other person. Just go back in your mind and try and pinpoint that first single moment. So this is a moment of joy of sorts, right? It's a blissful moment for us. It's a sweet memory. It's a moment in time that's encapsulated in our minds, maybe for many years. And we think that this moment existed. Now think about this one moment that you've latched onto. Maybe it's like the split second when your two fingers met, or your lips met, or whatever moment that you picked. Does it have a beginning and an end, this moment? Of course, it's a moment in time. It has this second, even a small second, can have a beginning and a middle and an end. So that wasn't the first moment. The beginning of the first moment must have been the first moment. But of course, that beginning of that first moment, it also had to have a beginning and a middle and an end. So that wasn't the first moment. We have to go to the beginning of that moment. It gets to the point when you can no longer perceive with your senses that kind of subtle, infinitesimal amount of time. You would never be able to perceive that kind of split second of a split second of a split second of a moment. And because the moment you remember is supposedly made up of all of these split seconds of split seconds of split seconds of moments, how could we have ever perceived the whole second if we hadn't been able to perceive all the parts of the second individually? It's difficult. I'll say it again. You take a second of time, that moment of the first contact with that other person, that sweetness that you remember, that instant, and then you divide it into beginning and middle and end. So then you have this third of a second, right? And that's the first moment. But that can also be divided. And then you get into moments that you can't really perceive because they've gone by too fast for the normal senses to perceive. And if you can't grab on to the parts of that second that you remember, this second that you think you remember, it's made of a bunch of parts. If you haven't perceived the parts, how could you perceive the whole? If you didn't perceive the length of time going from here to here to here to here, how could you perceive this whole length of time? It's like looking at an object and saying you can see the whole object, but you can't see any of the beads. That's what it would be like. You're saying, I can see this whole second, but I can't see any of the beads that make up the second. That's impossible. It's impossible to not see the parts and to see the whole. You can't see this rosary without seeing the beads. You can't see the whole second without seeing all the parts of the second. And if you prove to yourself that the parts of the second are too small for your mind to even grasp, you've proved that moment can't exist. Not in the way that you thought it did. Events in time, events that we see, that we think we see out there, going on out there, that moment that we cherish so much, that we love so much, of that very first contact, it didn't exist. It didn't even exist. That's what this verse is saying. So, who cares? Right? Like, this was this big gymnastic mental exercise, and who cares? there are some very profound implications to that principle. All right? If this moment in time didn't exist the way that we thought it did, then the bliss of a first moment, of a first kiss, could feasibly last forever. If you figured out the real cause. And that's what the important thing is. I mean, dang, I would like that to last forever. You know, I'd like that feeling all day long. I'd be so cheerful. Everyone would love me. I would never be grumpy. It'd be great. I mean, just to have that, you know. Oh, I think there was singing there. I'm remembering some sort of singing. Wasn't there singing? So we live in this society where the moment changes. You know, the bliss wears out, the attraction fades, and we're left to wonder why that happens. You know, why only one instant of time did we have this moment? Why couldn't it last? Why couldn't it be extended? The events in our lives are totally coming from our own projections. Those moments of time themselves are completely fabricated by our mind. And the reason we know that is because you can never grasp at an outside second. It just doesn't exist. We've just proven that. It doesn't exist. The outside seconds don't exist. These are seconds in your mind. These are moments of time in your mind. And therefore, they're not, they're completely within our control. Every single event that you could ever possibly dream of is completely within your control. Because even time is coming from you. Let's go on to the next verse. Just, you know, this is really, this is another angle. I told you that before. Arya Nagarjuna comes at emptiness from so many different directions. And there will be some people in this audience who will say, oh my God, that time thing, it really got me. And there were other people like, I didn't get that at all. But that other thing, that was really relevant to me. And the reason they give so many different arguments about emptiness is because there are so many different kinds of people out there, so many different kinds of personalities, and one of them will resonate with you. So you have to cook them all and see what comes up for you and see what makes the most sense to you. But don't go home and beat yourself up if this particular one was not like the relevant one, because this one is a little bit. I don't know a lot of people who resonate with this one the most, but it's valuable to us. Every different angle gives us a different perspective on this emptiness thing that we're trying so hard to wrap our minds around, right? So, page 6, verse 48. This occurs because that was there. It's like shortness because of length. This thing starts because the other one did. It's like rays of light once a lamp is lit. This verse is about two things that are not true. Okay, so don't go home and say, oh, Arya Nagarjuna says this. This is like two things he's saying are not true. You have to know that. It's like the oral commentary. I'm passing it on to you. These are two very powerful lies that exist within our society that explain the way our world works. The reason you think that someone is attractive is because they're attractive compared to everybody else in the world. That's false. That's false. You know, we think things exist compared to other things. Like this paper is short compared to the longer paper in England that you have to, you know, the A4 notebook paper that never fits in my bag. You know, it's short in comparison to the longer version. But if you didn't know about A4 paper, you wouldn't call this short. You know, and we think in terms of comparison. There is nothing in the world that exists in relation to each other. It's not like, so I'll give you an example. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Right? This phrase, like, we spent 24/7 together for the last, I don't know, 9 years? Something like that. Anyway, literally, we haven't been out of each other's sight. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. We have proven to ourselves that that particular comparison is not true. We've had people in the past say, wouldn't you have a healthier relationship if one of you took a vacation? But that's not the correct worldview. That doesn't hold up when you think about emptiness. Because it's not in comparison with everything else that you've seen in your day that all of a sudden you'll appreciate your partner more. Sometimes out of sight is out of mind. You know? And that's the reason why we have two contradictory phrases in our our proverbial vocabulary. Neither one of them is true. Things don't exist in relation to the other. It all depends on your mind. Your partner will appear to you as beautiful if you have kept your anger in check. That's a weird correlation, but try it. You know, one of the other things I have to say about correlations and people coming up to me and saying, how do you prove that? It's not up to me to prove it. It's up to me to tell you about it. It's up to you to prove it. You know, I get up here, I say, hey, you know, all these great sages, they said, keep your anger in check, your partner will start to look more attractive. You go try it. You know, see if it works. If it doesn't work, you've lost nothing. You know, you've gotten less angry. It's not a bad thing, you know. I mean, you can come back to me in 6 months after we do another one of these talks and say, listen, I tried, my anger's better, she still looks ugly, you know. But until you go try it, you know, like, refrain from coming up to me and complaining. But, no, I'm charging you with this. This is like how the teachings are supposed to work. You're supposed to say, I don't know if that works. I'll go try it, you know. And if you don't experiment on yourself, because these are all about self-experimentation. This is all about using our own world and our own life and our own mind and our own relationships and learning how to change the world and learning how to change our experience and make us happier people that are better able to serve others and better able to serve each other and love each other. And if you don't put it into practice, it's just a bunch of meaningless words anyway, and who cares if it's true or not because you're not doing it. So the other thing that, the other powerful lie here is an immediate cause-effect relationship. Now, we just said that everything is cause and effect, but it's that time gap, right? You give money to somebody thinking, I want to pay off my mortgage, and it doesn't come back to you right away. In fact, right away, you're out a couple $100. You know? Right away, it looks like you lost some money. the idea of an immediate cause and effect relationship is false. Like, you go on a diet and you look more beautiful, right? The diet didn't cause you to look more beautiful. You must have been, either you burnt off your karma for getting angry, or you have been keeping your anger in check and you started to look more beautiful. And the dieting had nothing to do with it, right? The immediate cause, the thing that looks like the cause, has nothing to do with it. Now, get this. If you go start a diet and it works and you think, oh, I'm getting thinner and I look more beautiful, both the diet and you looking more beautiful are coming from the same actual cause. In the past, you kept your anger in check. So you found a good diet and you got more beautiful. They can both be coming from the same cause. It looks like this and this is causing this, but it's not. Both of them are being caused by something in the way past that happened before. These are, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the end of my part. He gets to go now.
We're on page 7 now. I keep saying this is the most important verse or the most famous verse, but this verse really is maybe the most famous. I don't know, most quoted perhaps. I'll do it in Tibetan. Geshe pumbor zin yu par, te si te la ngan zin yu na yang ne te, dele yang ni kewayin. As long as we hold to the parts of us, we hold as well to me. And as long as we hold to me, then we are still collecting karma. And from this we are born again into this world of pain. Like, it's very hard to understand. And Nagarjuna is very hard to understand. And for hundreds of years, people have not understood Nagarjuna. I mean, there have been many, even countries, whole countries of Buddhists that really didn't understand Nagarjuna. So here's what it means. It's very simple, really. Let's say you start a relationship with somebody, and the first few days are always blissful, and everything they do looks cool. And then, this is why I got out of the girlfriend business when I was 19, and took ordination. I had this, people say, why did you become a monk? So like if it's the New York Times, I say, my parents died, my brother died, I went to find out about death. But the truth is, I couldn't figure out why every time I had a girlfriend, they'd be so wonderful at the beginning, and then 6 months later we'd really hate each other, you see? And I couldn't figure out, it was like, and it happened with my parents also. They had a very bad divorce. And it disturbed me profoundly, you see? Why is it? Is this just inevitable? Am I a bad person? Is there something wrong with me? Or is it just inevitable, like with my parents? When you're a child, you question that. Oh, my parents were very happy last year. Now they seem less happy. Oh, my dad moved out. What's happening? What's going on? Does this happen with everybody's parents? Does this happen with every couple? Then, you get to high school and you start having girlfriends or boyfriends. And then you start seeing that you're doing the same thing. So then I got to a point where I said, it just doesn't work. Relationships don't work. I'm not going to even try anymore. I'll just save time, save money, save trouble. Just give it up. Go get ordained. And, it's impossible. It won't work. And it just creates unhappiness, really. And I don't know, the divorce rate is, 50%, 60%, I don't know what it is. So it would seem, it's tempting to say, oh, it just can't work, And the lower schools of Buddhism, right? The lower schools of Buddhism, they say it can't work, it won't work, you see what I mean? Then as you rise up in the schools, and Arya Nagarjuna is the higher school. He would say, you haven't been looking at your partner the right way. So it's not that having a partner has to go wrong. It's that you don't understand how to have a partner because you don't understand where your partner's coming from. Which Christy said, you don't understand the emptiness of your partner. You don't understand the emptiness of your relationship. So I'll give a real example, okay? So, I don't know, after a year, you start to feel like, oh, the person is very critical of me. The first few months I knew them, all they told me was how good I looked or how smart I was. And now all I hear is like, oh, you don't know how to do that, or you didn't do that so well, or you don't look so good. And they seem to have changed, And there's that book, right? Things fall apart. Things fall apart. And it's tempting to say, and the lower schools of Buddhism say, it must fall apart. It will always fall apart. So don't have relationships. Don't eat good food. Don't go see movies. Don't listen to music. Why? Things fall apart. Just give it up. But then what am I supposed to do? No, I mean, if you follow that train of thought, it becomes almost like you should sit in a corner and just be neutral. You should just sit and be neutral because nothing works and everything falls apart. So the higher schools say, it's true. There seems to be an energy within relationships that must fall apart. This is called karma. Okay? Karma, you have to understand one thing about karma. It took me years to understand this. There's what they call white karma, and there's what they call black karma. There's good karma, and there's bad karma. So I give money to somebody. Good karma will produce money for me, and it's always more. That's why this is smart stuff. You see? I give $10, 100 comes back. You see what I mean? That's good karma. And then bad karma is, I refuse to help a person who really needs help. I keep the money, then my income goes down. My mortgage payments are increased by the bank. You see what I mean? So there's good karma and there's bad karma. But there's something bad about good karma. There's something bad about good karma. What? It always wears out. Okay? Why? Anything that produces a result wears out. When a walnut creates a tree, what happens to the walnut? I mean, halfway into the sprout coming up, the walnut is being consumed by the sprout. You see? A seed is destroyed by its fruit. It's always like that. It made me feel so good about all my bad relationships in high school. Like it was an epiphany for me. It wasn't my fault. I'm not like some kind of monster. I mean, I may be a monster, but I didn't make those things go wrong. It wasn't my fault. What? A relationship is destroyed by its beginning. A relationship is destroyed by the meeting of the two people for the first time. You see? Marriages are destroyed by the first meeting of the two people who got married. Because that's the cause of the marriage. As the seed is destroyed by the tree. You see? It's like mind-boggling. You see? What does it take to destroy a marriage? You meet each other. No, it's very disturbing. I mean, given if you don't take any remedial action, if you don't understand emptiness, the fact that you met each other will destroy the relationship. Either one person or the other will leave, get unhappy, you'll split up, maybe both of you will get unhappy, or one of you will die. You see? But the relationship must be destroyed. Why? Because you met each other. You see? It's very profound, it's very disturbing. If you understand emptiness, you can stop this process. What he's saying here, as long as you hold to us, it will be destroyed. If you can drop holding to us, it will survive. and it will flourish and be happier and happier. What does that mean, Am I supposed to pretend she's not here? Am I supposed to think I'm not here? Is it wrong to think Christy and Michael are... The poster said Christy and Michael. I don't know, is it wrong to think that we're sitting up here on this table that might fall down? We're here. So what is it that's wrong? How is holding to me, us, make it somehow wrong? Here's how it works, okay? So you're seeing your partner, you're like blissful for the first X weeks. And then I think as long with the first kiss, I think you can remember the first fight. I think you can remember, right? The first tense moment. The first time she started to cry. This is horrible. The first tear that popped out. Was it the first moment of the first tear or the second, middle? I don't know. Right? But it always happens, right? It happens. It happens in every relationship. The first moment that they criticized you from their heart, the first moment that there was a really serious disagreement or an argument, right? That you remember that. The key to changing that karma, the key to preventing the meeting from destroying the marriage, you see? The way to stop the tree from destroying the seed is there. It's really beautiful. What? Understand where it's coming from. Understand where the fight came from. Understand why they said something unkind to you. Understand why your partner said their first unkind thing to you. You're looking at them, you've known each other, it's been 3 weeks after that blissful first moment, whatever the parts were, and then suddenly this thing pops out of their mouth, like, I hate you, or this is miserable, or I can't believe you're like that, Then you have to jump on that moment. If you don't jump on it with wisdom, it will destroy your relationship. You have to jump on the first moment and say, where is this coming from? Why did they say something unkind to me? You see, and if you understand emptiness, there's only one answer, which is what? I said something unkind to someone else before. Okay? I must have said something unkind to someone else before. Okay? The immediate reaction of a person who has learned wisdom has to be, it's my fault. I created this. You see? It has to be from understanding, deep in your heart, understanding emptiness. Why did she say this thing to me? Why did she call me stupid? You see? And you have to jump on it right away and say, did I do that? Have I been doing that? You see? It takes all the focus off the other person. Forget the other person in your relationship. Okay? Anytime something negative happens, anytime they say something you don't like, if you really understand what Nagarjuna, if you get Nagarjuna, it goes right back to me. What did I do to cause this? When was I critical to someone? When did I say something that hurt someone's feelings? You see? And then you fix it. That destroys the bad karma. But what do we do? What do we do? What do we do when they say you're stupid? We say, you're stupid. You see? No, it's human nature. It's human nature. I'll say it again. Why did they say you were stupid? Because you said to someone else in the past, you're stupid. Okay? Now what's the stupidest thing you can do? You see? And what's your natural reaction? What do we always do? No, you're stupid. You see? We should be having a sweet roll right now. You know? That was at Starbucks a couple hours ago. No, you're stupid. You see? And then what happens? It says here, rebirth into the world of pain. Rebirth into the world of pain. You don't have to think Bardo, death experience. You don't have to think spirit world. You don't have to think that far ahead. It's there. But we're not talking about that tonight. there will be a rebirth of this cycle of you're stupid. You see what I mean? It will start. This cycle will start. This cycle will start. Then they'll say it again, what, in a week, 2 weeks, they'll say it again. And then what will you do? No, you're stupid. You see? No, and then it gets going like this. It starts slow like a snowball, and then it just goes downhill, and then you split. You split up, you see? So, what's the key? What's he saying? What's the point here? It's on, the circle's in verse 36, you can read it. Verse 37. It's not what you thought, so shut it off. It's not what you thought, so just shut it off. What? When they say you're stupid, do what you want. You see, I'm not saying you should say something or you shouldn't say something. This is a lie. This is a lie. Talk back. Reason with them. I'm not saying that. Just don't say anything. I ain't saying that either. You can reason with them if you feel like it. There will be no immediate consequence. You can shut up if you want. There will be no immediate consequence. The main thing is what? Don't get angry. Don't get angry. Inside, you have to fix yourself. And then that circle will shut down. They call it the breakdown of the circle. It's like nirvana. Nirvana means the breakdown of the circle. This circle will be broken, you see? Should you reason with them? I didn't say that. Should you just shut up? I didn't say that. Well, what are you saying? Don't get mad. Don't get mad. You can try to reason with them. Will it work? Depends on whatever you did 6 months ago. You can shut up. Will it work? I don't know. It depends on what you did 6 months ago. So what am I supposed to do? Just don't get mad. Just don't buy into it and keep the circle rolling. Get out mentally, yourself. You see? It's so beautiful. Then the downhill cycle gets broken, and your relationship goes higher and higher, more and more beautiful. So it's not true that a relationship has to be destroyed by its beginning. If you keep injecting pure karma, not white, not black, not good karma, not bad karma, but what we call pure karma. What's pure karma? They're coming from me. Everything about Christy, every endearing move of the hand, you know? And every sneer I ever got. Where are they coming from? Where are they coming from? It's just me. I just have to fix me. Then the relationship goes higher and higher and higher, more and more beautiful. Okay? You don't want to do good karma, and you don't want to do bad karma. You want to do pure karma. Pure karma means you understand what you're doing. And then whatever negative cycle is going is broken. And then the good cycles just keep going higher and higher. Because good karma wears out. We don't want that kind of karma. Okay? Got it? All right. I think that's the last one. Stay on this last one.
So you start to see how this whole understanding of karma, the real cause and effect, has to do with your understanding of emptiness, understanding of how things work. Because if you think that your partner exists out there from their own side, right, without any responsibility on your part, if you think that they're not coming from you, if you think that these moments of you're stupid are not coming from you, then you're liable to try and fix the outside cause with another outside response. No, you're stupid. You know, I mean, you're liable to try it. You won't be able to not react until you start to understand, until when someone responds to you, especially when someone who's very close to you, responds to you in a negative way, you won't be able to hold back your response unless in your mind it's going through there somewhere, I caused that. I caused that. I'm seeing that because I said something negative to someone else. I caused it. I caused it. I caused it. It has to be like a mantra in your mind to hold you back from your natural response, because it's so, unfortunately, it is our natural response to perpetuate the downward spiral. It is our natural response to respond with "no, you're stupid" and to descend. And that's why everything that we love wears out. And that's why everything dies. It's not because it has to. It's not because we have to get old and die. It's not because we have to lose everything we love. It's because we're responding in a way that's killing it. We're responding in a way that's perpetuating the downward spiral. And everything, the key to everything, is understanding emptiness. It's not out there. The moment's not out there. The parts of the body are not out there. The image I have of that particular person as they walk through the door and make me smile is not out there. Otherwise, you could pay that person to stand at the door all day and make you happy. You know, I mean, it wouldn't work, right? I mean, right? We did that yesterday. The moment someone walks through the door and they make you smile. Well, if they stood at the door all day, would you still be happy and smiling, or would your mind shift? Would it wear out? It can't be the person. It can't be the person in front of you. It can't be your partner that's causing all of these emotions inside you. It's coming from you. And that is the key to perfecting every single relationship in your life. We're supposed to stop soon, so we're just going to... Do you want to... I think we're going to leave the rest of this for tomorrow. So you can get home in a timely way. Right? Do you want to do the prayer? Yeah. Yeah, after. Yeah.
One announcement.
Maybe after.
Okay.
We're going to do a short Tibetan prayer. We believe that sitting together in this room, in this holy space, talking about these things, talking about how to perfect our lives and how to create more happiness for ourselves and others, that it's a really, really holy practice. And we like, at the end of this, to remember how holy it is and to offer it to people. And so think about when we're doing this Tibetan prayer that you probably don't understand too well. Just think about the thing that struck you the most tonight and sending that out to everybody in Tucson. And like penetrating their hearts with a little bit of wisdom to benefit their lives. And we would particularly also like to dedicate this particular teaching to, there's a man named Harvey Bornfield, and he's in Tucson Medical Center tonight, and he's having heart problems. So we'll think of him when we close tonight. And if anybody would like to visit him, he says he'd welcome visitors. But send him some love in your heart when we do this last prayer.
Can you sing it? Sing.
mandalakam niyatayami. Kewadi kewakam sanam yeshe sok sok shin sanam yeshe
Good night. Oh, one announcement. For those of you attending Diamond Mountain University, on Monday, all canceled? Classes in the evening are canceled. Sorry?
What?
Is on?
Every class is canceled, or one class is still?
No, only 3 classes are.
3 classes are canceled,
The
and
eve-
1 class is not canceled.
The evening classes in Tucson and Diamond Mountain are canceled.
Evening classes in Tucson and Diamond Mountain are canceled.
And at 7 o'clock, there'll be a talk ceremony for those who are following Vajrayogini practice. At 8 p.m. at the Bowie campus, there'll be an ordination ceremony, the first one held there, of one monk and one nun. And we're very proud of Eric Brinkman and Gail Deutsch. So everyone's welcome to come, even if you never heard of them. And that'll be around 8 o'clock. And then after that, there'll be a small celebration party with talks. So everyone's welcome to come to that. If you'd like to check it out and you don't know anything about Diamond Mountain, maybe the board of directors could raise their hand. Yeah, and you can talk to any of those people after we finish. Okay? So thank you for coming. We'll see you tomorrow. Hope. Thank you.